Welcome to Accelerate Your Wealth, a podcast by Rebecca Robertson, founder and director of Evolution Financial Planning. We hope you enjoy the show, and please feel free to leave us a review. It really does help. Feel free to connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn and Instagram, or head over to www.rebeccarobertson.co.uk or our sponsor, Evolution Financial Planning, for regulated advice on www.evolutionfinancialplanning.co.uk/podcast.
Hello, it's Rebecca here. I hope you're doing well. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about 6 ways that you can prepare or you should do in a recession. Now, technically, as I'm recording this, the UK isn't in a recession, and it's not been actually forecast by the Bank of England, but there's a lot of talk about it, and it's likely it's going to happen just based on what's going on consumerly at the moment. Consumerly, is that a word? I'm going to say that's a word. So I'm going to make today's show sort of quite to the point so that people can digest these shows quite quickly and quite efficiently. But I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on the show, and please do leave a review. Okay, so what 6 things you can do in a recession, so in it or preparing for one. The first thing is to have emergency funds. Now, I talk to clients about this all the time. I won't invest their money without considering what do we need to ring fence for their emergency money. Now, everyone's emergency pool of money can be different. So some people feel that they need 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 times their outgoings per month. Some people feel that they need 10 times that. It really does depend on people's personal circumstances and also their attitude to how safe things feel at the time. Now, we can make some of these decisions when things are great and everything's brilliant, but it's worth looking at your outgoings and looking at what you've got in emergency so that you can now see if it's more correct. And how's that changed? So your mortgage payments might have changed, your gas and electric payments may have changed. Obviously, you need possibly spending more just naturally because things are costing more. It's worth reviewing your budget. If that's something you want to explore more, go and check out the other podcasts that have been issued recently. Just a few shows ago, I did 4 sessions, which was the financial detox over 4 weeks. So you can delve more into that there if you want to get more into that. But otherwise, know exactly what your outgoings are and how much you have available to access. So if you don't have a mental note of it, then you can go and write them down or go and collect up your different savings pots, or you might be quite easy and you know exactly where it all is and it's all in one place, or there might not be much of it. So you know it's quite easy to quickly work out. So you'll be able to then just see how much that all adds up to and then decide whether you've got enough there. Now, enough is for what? Emergency funds for what? Well, one, because we can think that what's going to happen? Well, what if we lose our job? What if the amount of clients that we have coming reduces? What if our revenue changes in our business? How does that affect our business outgoings as well? You know, so how much we're paying out for? What do we need to adjust? What can we what can we cut back on? And what can we expand on? So, but for some people, there's not a lot of wriggle room there. You know, we're living month to month. We might have already had a difficult few months, and you might be finding yourself that some of the emergency funds are running out, and you're now in a situation where you're thinking, okay, well, I really need to make some more cutbacks. So knowing, understanding your finances and keeping your head above water and staying positive is the biggest advice I can give in all of this. And I know that's easier said than done, but I have been there and I can talk from experience. It is the only way forward. You have to think positively and keep open to all opportunities and think ahead. So the first thing, emergency funds. How much have you got? What could you fall back on? What could you put in place for a just in case? Reduce debt. So number 2, reduce debt. Think about, okay, what have I got in my credit cards? What could I overpay on? So you don't want to be taking money out of your emergency funds as backup to necessarily clear debt. You still want to have some emergency funds. But if you've got over and above and you do have wriggle room to maybe clear off, it might be more sensible if you know that you've got, for example, a credit card that's maturing and you want to get down the interest rates, you know that you're not going to pay more. You might not get that onto another 0%. So what could you do to sort of reduce that debt down a little bit? Could £1,000 make all the difference, for example, in reducing those monthly outgoings? So what you can do to clear debt, and the most expensive debt first. Sometimes people suggest clearing off the smaller bits. It sort of feels sort of more effective. It gives a good mindset. There's not as many pots, and I do agree psychologically that can really help. But financially speaking, the ones that are on a higher interest rate or a pending 0% coming up for renewal, to clear those down first. For those of you that are using credit cards to live off of, then you still equally have to manage that like a machine. Be very, very clever about what you're using it for and how you're using it, and make cutbacks wherever you can to mean that you're not using it as little as possible. Now, actually, in a recession, a lot of people can make money in a recession. So you basically, it can make people with a huge amount of money a lot richer, because they are buying large amounts of property, because they're cheaper, they're investing in stocks because they've got the spare capital to do it. The more leverage you have, the more money you have, the more leverage you have. So actually, this is not a time for everybody to be just sitting and waiting. This is not a time for people just to be going, well, I'm just going to see what happens. You can never time the market. So what we do know when we have a bull and a bear market, so highs and lows of the markets, is we believe at this point we've already had one of our biggest drops for this year. The market's already been very turbulent this year, and so therefore now is not necessarily the time to come out of investing. Now is the time, because we don't know if it's going to peak. Well, the peak of the drop is going to be next week or the week after, or 2 months ago. What we do know over time is, this is like 100 years worth of data, is it will bounce back up. So in the recession of 2008, it had losses of around, let me just double check my figures, -67% and 34%. So that was between the years of 1993 and 1995. We had one recession, and then we had a second one. We had a bit of a bailout in 1976, and then we had another recession in 1980 to 1981. So in those respective years, it was -67% and -34%. However, the preceding years thereafter, so from 1983, and actually the returns throughout that recession in the 80s, over a 12-year period, was this is like such a crazy number, 3,514% returns over those 12 years. So though we had -67% losses, we also had a real jump up over that 10-year period, actually, whilst the recession was happening. So what does that mean? Is that we actually had the biggest drop was in the first recession, when it first all happened. Actually, nothing happened. Things continued in the stock market throughout the 80s recession. So even though it was being felt by people at home and in households, that wasn't necessarily the case actually for the markets. And the news plays a massive part in creating a void, if you like, in real facts, because they're spinning stories that creates fear and means that more people will read them, but that doesn't mean that actually they're factual, and we do have to step away from that noise and look at a bigger picture. So what am I getting at is that actually money can be made in a recession. It's just all about deciding what degree. So for some people that could be vast amounts, for others that could be smaller amounts. And actually, so for example, when we came out of COVID, my husband started his own investment portfolio. It's doing well, but I know that once these markets jump back up again, it's a long-term strategy. That portfolio could potentially double in value. So sometimes we have to take a bit of risk, but it's not about taking risk with money that you can afford to lose. We have to do that very carefully and very strategically, which is why it's best to get financial advice, but each to their own. Okay, the third thing is fix your mortgage. So interest rates are increasing. We expect interest rates to potentially go up again in this part of 2022. Now, could they go back down again later part of 2023? Yes. So it's like anything in that, it's like, when do you time it? Is now the best time? No, actually 3 or 4 months ago was the best time. Could 3 months time, 6 months time be the best time? Probably not. I know we're going to be worse off than what we are like now or 3 months ago. But then if you've taken out a 5-year fixed rate at the highest peak of this point, we don't know what that future is. So you always taking that bit of a risk, the timing. I spoke to a client the other day and she said, I time everything so badly. I try and time it and it always goes wrong. I bought my house and property prices dropped. I took a job and my old company made redundancies the next day. I always time it badly. She says, I'm sitting on this. I'm having to sit pretty and sit quiet because I know that if I make a decision, we could end up I'll pull out, for example, of my investments, and then the bounce back happens within 2 days. So we can't. Indecision is not always the best idea. We have to make informed decisions with the knowledge that we have. So what we do know, interest rates are going to go up in the next few months. If that's going to be the best thing long term for you, if you're looking at maybe pulling out of a fixed rate that's maturing next year sometime, is it worth you paying redemption charges and potentially be stuck on a higher rate? Who knows at this point? It's a bit of a crystal ball. It's best to get independent financial advice around what rates are available to you and work out the calculations with that advisor as to what is best for you long term. The fifth thing is insurances. So what are you paying for? A lot of people pay for different kinds of insurances, from cat insurance, dog insurance, car insurance, horse insurance if you're me, lots of different insurances. Actually find out what you're covered for and what those policies do for you. So yeah, I think there's some life cover in there, but you wouldn't be paying any more than maybe £10-20 for life cover. Have you got any redundancy cover? Is that something you could consider if you think there's, the market's going to get more expensive? They're annually renewable or reviewable policies. So usually you can have a set premium for 12 months and then they're reassessed thereafter. So if you're worried about your job over the next 12 months, that could be a really good idea. If you're worried about being sick and, your work doesn't pay you very much, sick pay, what would happen then? Would I, eat up too much of my reserve emergency money? Should I be taking out some other form of insurance? So again, an independent financial advisor can talk to you through the different kinds of insurances and assess what you're paying for and what you would really need within your budget, obviously within your affordability. So look at what you're paying for and actually what you're getting for that money. Don't always cancel the policy. It's not always a good idea, because bear in mind, if you try and take it back out again, you might not be insurable, and it possibly would be more expensive because you've aged in the time that you've taken it out, even though if you're not been sick or poorly. And then last of all, number six tip is pensions. So investing over a long period of time, you have the compound effect. Increasing your monthly amounts into your pensions are really great for tax efficiency, and also the buying power each month that you're buying that at. And then in 12 months, 2 years, 4 years, 5, 10, 15 years time, depending on how long you've got until you retire, these markets make money. The pensions are invested over a long period of time. It means that they will bounce back. So looking at your pensions and your pension contributions are really important. Now, the pensions have been quite a big news in the UK recently, because the Bank of England bailed out the certain bonds, government gilts, in fact. Now, that was affecting, there was news of that affecting certain pensions. That's affecting defined benefit or final salary pensions, which are government backed. They give a guaranteed, not government backed, they're highly invested in the bond market and the gilt market, because they give a guaranteed amount of income in retirement. And that's why the Bank of England had to buy those out over that period of time. Now, I don't think there's any long-term damage. I think there's news of one particular pension firm that might be in trouble, but otherwise that seems to be averted otherwise. So that doesn't apply to every pension that's out there. It's only if you've got a final salary from an old scheme from years ago that might be affected. But it's doubtful, and the normal pensions are just affected in the market changes as they normally are. The next 6 months is looking volatile. There's nothing to hide there. However, it will bounce back. It's just a case of when. So things to do in 6 things to do in a case of planning for a recession or in a recession is emergency funds, reducing debt, invest wisely. It includes if you're a business owner and thinking about what do I need to reserve back in my business, but how should I be investing right now, because it is a good time to leverage your position if you're able to. Fix your mortgage, look at your insurances. Also, as a business owner, there are things like you can take up business insurances on the similar ilk, like relevant life insurance, which basically pays out a life cover, like a death in service if you was employed, but your business pays it. So it's tax efficient as well. And then look at your pensions, which again for business owners, reduces your corporation tax, any employer contributions, to your pension schemes. So if you need any financial advice around any of those subjects, do get in touch with our sponsor, which I'm the director and founder of evolutionfinancialplanning.co.uk, and we will be happy to see how we can help. If you're looking for a little bit of a roundup and a little bit of what are my circumstances? I need a little bit of help with this. We have a free tool called a financial wellbeing assessment, which is on evolutionfinancialplanning.co.uk website. Just scroll down a tiny bit down the page and you'll see our wellbeing assessment tool. Complete that and it will email you a summary of things for you to consider. And also as a free chapter in there about prioritizing your finances. So I hope today's show has been helpful for you and got you thinking. Do leave a review and get in touch, and I hope you are in a best position that you can be, and as always keep positive and keep your money management atop of your agenda so that you can put yourself in the best possible position that you can. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Accelerate Your Wealth. For further help or to connect with Rebecca directly, please head over to the website www.rebeccarobertson.co.uk, where you can find further information on our planner, book, and how to further maximise your wealth. Our sponsor, Evolution Financial Planning, for regulated advice on pensions, investments, mortgages, insurances on www.evolutionfinancialplanning.co.uk/podcast.